I'm a director with OYAYONE. OYAYONE is a foundation. Our mission is really to build an enduring inheritance for our children's children. And OYAYONE means netcaster. It means going after the collecting those that have been left behind. Now, why did we set up OYAYONE? And so OYAYONE being a foundation, and the project that I'm going to get into, you can move to the next slide. It's not that this is our day-to-day. So we've got different projects in mind, but our aim is to uplift young mothers. OYAYONE is translated to mean netcaster, and that is who we are. Going to the next slide. Why OYAYONE? If you look at the Namibian demographics, what Namibia looks like is a 21-year-old rural female. So if we go further and just unpack some of the hard statistics and the problem set that we are faced with in Namibia, is that unemployment rate is high amongst females, 34.3% versus males, 32.5%. About 70% of Namibia's population is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture as a source of livelihood. Notably, 95% of farming households only farm to subsistence purposes, leaving only 5% that farm commercially, while 70% of communal farmers are women. So we have a big problem, we have a big need, and so we felt as OYAYONE with this mandate that SISAL production will be a means to an end. Before I get into this isn't your average pitch. This is about social innovation and social impact. And what does that mean? It means we have to rethink, even in innovating in pitches itself. I often use, if you look at traditional financing, often people don't have collateral, so people started with cash flow financing. If you look at project financing for infrastructure, there are many countries who have, a lot of infrastructure need, but there is no bankable projects out there and have a need for feasibility funding. So people needed to come up with project preparation, venture capital funds. And so my question today was to say, there are so many projects out there that are social innovation, social capital projects that don't meet the definitive criteria, and maybe we should also look at a different sense of how we pull together. So the SISAL production is our initiative. It's ideation at this stage. What is SISAL? So SISAL is from the agave plant. Why in Namibia? SISAL today, though, is a fledgling plant that is mainly grown in Tanzania. Tanzania is the biggest market after Brazil, where SISAL fibers are grown. So the SISAL fiber, only 2% of the plant goes to that high-yielding fiber. Now, there's been extreme demand. If you look from an ESG perspective, it is about going green and everyone trying to change their inputs to production and using this type of fiber because it's green, biodegradable and the like. And so that has grown the production due to demand for fiber. Now, 2% of the plant goes to that high quality that can be processed for carpets, artisanry goods, and the like. The middle part, which is the sap, is used in industry, and about 70%, which is waste material, is used in fertilizer, biogas, and the like. So it has a high and wide industry usage. And so when we plant this SISAL, one has to understand, do you go for the high production capacity, if you go to the next slide, for which there's big demand and a big market for. So just in terms of the global supply, there's about 310 metric tons of supply, but the demand is 600,000 metric tons. And we want to enter into the space for Namibia. As we said, it can grow in our arid conditions. It does grow in soil that's degraded. Why are we trying to do this? We said to ourselves, we need to tap into climate adaptation. There is a lot of money being leashed into climate adaptation. At this stage, you need to unlock blended finance to try and access this funding. Namibia today, with Rwanda, is one of only 2 countries that have accessed capital from the Green Climate Fund. The Ministry of Environment and Tourism is ready now to take 4 other institutions they've just submitted their applications in September to get that funding. That is a lot of money that's being unlocked for the just energy transition to move into climate adaptation, and we want to source that capital. All these institutions that have made their applications, they don't have enough projects that can be pilot projects for that application and to test and try. And so this is a great opportunity. You can stay on this slide. Just in terms of how big this industry is, and the compounded annual growth rate sits about 6%. So we want to tap into this within Namibia, not just because we're saying there's much land, land, but there's also an innovative model. The green schemes allow for a smallholder farmer program. So we want to team up with green schemes to use the smallholder farmer program to see, can we grow SISAL? In many of the green schemes, the women that are used to harvest are women. They are young single mothers. So that is our target market in any case. So if we can get land from the green schemes and understand the communal base of this land, then we can have SISAL produced on this plant. But where does the innovation come in? The foundation sees itself as being a super farmer that will have offtake agreements and then procure from communal farmers throughout the region. And those communal farmers will then be the demographic, the young Namibian rural female. But there's also the component of trying to access and see, could this be urban farming? So it needn't be rural areas. You can move to the next slide. This just goes into the global demand, and so that is the offtake market. And so we really want to tap into this and understand how to unlock it for Namibia. If you go to the next slide. So the 10 hectare, we've done some studies, and we understand that between 8 and 10 hectares, that's when you start making profits. And on 8 and 10 hectares, you can employ 20 persons. So the super farmer model goes into primary, second, and secondary if we do value addition. So at this stage, we want to understand how we can do feasibility assessment to understand all of this and to test the soil, etc., to understand how this agave plant can grow within Namibia. Next slide. Traction. So scale. This is a scalable opportunity. Particularly because if we look at markets like Tanzania, they are sitting at growths of 300,000 tons. So if we want to tap into that market and test it in the pilot phase, just from piloting at first, we want to start off with 10 hectares. To scale it, we're saying this has the potential to create 1,000 jobs if we unlock the 50 hectare model where they feed into the super farmer, and then we look at the export markets. There is export markets outside of Africa for the higher production value of fiber, but within Africa itself as well, you can export to those countries who are using it for the biochemicals and the fertilizer component. Next slide. So the ask, what is the ask? So as I've said, this is not your typical pitch to say, this is our profitability. This is a social innovation ask. It is to say, if we pull together, how can we pull together? We need to unpack this feasibility study. So we're trying to tell you that through blended finance, we can unlock the capital that is there for adaptation. And at each stage that we unlock capital, you can recoup your cost. So just the same way that a project preparation project finance model would work, it's the same way. All cost is recouped on a recovery basis. If you see the long run potential of this, you can participate now, have your cost recouped at pilot. If you stay in for the long run, once the feasibility is done and we do our assessments, we can assess what this type of valuation could be and what we're dealing with. So at this stage, our ask is 467,000. And you may ask, that doesn't sound like much. Why have you not put in? The foundation does many various projects, and each project needs to stand on its own. It needs to be sustainable for itself, and this is one of those. And so this is where we are at this stage, to just say Namibia has proven itself. There's a buzz about Namibia. We've done it with Kelp Blue because, by the way, SISAL is a carbon sink plant. It does do carbon sequestration, so we want to understand how do we even unlock in future the carbon credit market. So yes, I'm not here today selling agri-tech, saying we use precision farming and drones and the like, or saying we're going to use fintech to do microfinance, but that's where we can go. If we're going to have so many women, at some stage you can use fintech to have a platform where you source all of your communal farmers who are the women and understand how to empower them with a financing model for their inputs and grow the crop. So that's where we are at this stage. So the ask is that 467,000. To scale up will require the 10 million to take us to 20 hectares, but for now we're just at phase 1. The gross profitability per ton, so all is done on a per tonnage basis, is that it's 42%. We would like to work that back and understand at what EBITDA you come in. So when we do go to the feasibility, we'll be able to unlock all of that. What we're saying is there aren't many jobs that you can create employment at 10,000 to 22,000 capex. Once you've created a job, the understanding is that it's a permanent job. So to unlock so many jobs at just 10,000 capex spent is a good opportunity set. And so with that, this is a call for us to all pull together. This idea can grow far. It's been proven with cactus in Namibia in the south, as well as kelp blue. Sisal production can be one of those things. And with that, I thank you. Oh, sorry. Who's backing us at this stage? So this is my other members at the foundation. So the founder, Desiree Obel, she's a founder and an executive director, and she's at the back there with me. We also have Ms. Louise Shikwameni. Maybe you know her from the Ministry of Finance with the public sector. And then we have myself, but we have a technical team. This is so exciting that we've managed to get Nicholas Noah. He's currently an estate manager on a SISAL estate in Tanzania. As I said, Tanzania is the #2 producer of SISAL in the world and has seen that there's suitability for Namibia to grow SISAL. We have Tian Mare. He's got a certificate in food and safety and integrated pest management. So when we were going through the concept and just trying to understand first stage feasibility, these are the team members that assisted us, including Jason Kasuto. And now we want to move towards doing a full feasibility.
Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. I wanted to ask, from what you mentioned, the SISAL product can, from what you said, it can create other products, like as an end result, as an output. So I want to know, what can you do? What's your strategy to help, for example, the rural women to break out into the market? Since I listened to a presentation for Kelp Blue, which said they make leather bags. So that's my question.
Mm-hmm. So part of the pilot is to really test, do further soil tests and establish that we can truly affirm that SISAL can grow within Namibia. The first stage of production says you're not necessarily adding value. So once we start producing, we first want to test whether we just export. Over time, we want to move into the area where we do some processing. When we do get to the processing stage, we need to understand, and in the studies of the feasibility, is unlock and assess which of these industries is low-hanging fruit for the rural woman to get engaged into. So that is part of assessing. But in the beginning, to just ramp up production and gain traction would be to export. Just the raw fiber itself. And processing will go as we establish ourselves. But that's a very good question, because it talks about end-to-end value chain, and we would like to unlock that.
My question is, I think you kept emphasizing on blended finance. What I wanted to ask is, in that phase, the first phase ask, right? I mean, given NABAN is really pretty equity, I wanted to find out whether there are other players that you're looking at in terms of trying to get funding, in terms of concessionary capital or grant or something to that effect to achieve the blended finance structure?
Yes, definitely. So we're looking at an array, all sources of finance, from grant monies, donor agencies. But why the equity becomes essential as well is that, as I said, if we mirror that with the blended finance, it could reduce the cost of capital for us and make it perhaps more attractive for your likes. Now, unfortunately, like most things, and this is why I use the example of cash flow financing when traditional finance wants collateral and you can't do that, why I use the example of the Project Preparation Fund to unlock project prep for project finance, is that at times you need to, if someone understands that there's a guarantee for donor funding to come in, when you take that risk, it's either at first, if you see the long-term potential, there's a definite cost recovery, we just don't understand at this stage with what upside, even when donor funding comes. They will always recover all costs, and we don't understand if we can add a margin. But at least at now, the stage, you're safe to say, if I give these guys some money and I become an early equity investor, I might not have to wait to the end. I can get traction at the round when the pilot is funded to recoup some of my money.
I just wanted to find out if I donate, let's say, 20,000 now. Are you guys going to accept it, or how is the way forward?
And that's the spirit, because I think you understood when we said Namibia is actually a 21-year-old rural female. So this is a collective problem, and that's part of social capital. And when you come in with that early 20,000, and you're the one who used the word donate. Donate means nothing in return. But we can always understand and assess. There was this very, the Kenyans, ever since Safaricom, they like to coin things as innovation. People struggle to get government to set money aside for public infrastructure, and then they went the retail route. And how those retail bonds initially started was people in the diaspora saying, can I start and donate? So that might just unlock something that we can term into something and understand how do you become a partner. We definitely can discuss this during the networking.
Firstly, that plant you presented is a succulent, so it doesn't need a lot of water, meaning you can grow it in arid areas. Secondly, we have a mandate where we are saying, let's feed ourselves. So most green scheme projects at the moment, we are advocating to produce maize, produce tomatoes, produce watermelons and so forth. So I would advise that if you go for such a project, consult Namibian Agronomic Board, because they regulate the whole crop value chain from the producers, retailers, and the guys that export and import. And additionally to that, remember, such a project does it also have an opportunity to unlock a problem which we have in the country. Whenever there's a drought, the livestock farmers suffer. So try to explore the option of, can it be used as livestock feed? So that is what I would advise.
Is it for internal market or is it for export? And maybe just to complement this question, are you looking at GCF funded projects through what they call EIF maybe and others, or is it for, I really want to understand that part, and how can the organization that invested in you retain get their investment out of the project? Thank you.
So in terms of the usage, the thing with agriculture is you need to understand, are you growing something as a high value crop for the export market to earn foreign currency? And if you look at profitability per hectare, it's those types that make more money. So if we export the high quality fiber, we would definitely make more money. But as I showed earlier, only 2% of the plant is comprised of that. 70% is wastage, but there's use for the wastage. So definitely first it's to earn hard currency revenue. So definitely going for the export market. And that high quality fiber is then used for your more high-end goods. But you can't put to waste the 70%. This is likely to be understood of how to use it in country. Then there's within Africa countries that are already importing just low-grade fiber for use in their industries. Nigeria is one such market. So yes, it's largely to export, but it's also to understand what can be used locally, because it's a material that is used in industry. So as he very well said, could it be feed? Could local industry use it, whether it's in textiles, etc. So definitely one needs to understand what you can unlock. But first and foremost is to earn hard currency revenue. Yeah, that's the yarn, the fiber when it's high quality. Yeah. Then the question was, how can you monetize if you come so early? So I did say this is not your conventional pitch where something has a pre-money valuation and there's seed A, series A, B, etc. No, this is about social innovation and social venture capital, which is then saying, if we look at other financing areas where I use the example of project finance, that is based on succession fee, is to say, if you come in now and we do know we can unlock grant monies for the pilot, when you get that type of money, it looks at all the costs that have been borne to date. So we know for a fact that you will get cost recovery. Will you get a return on your capital? That's what needs to be determined. So it's not one of those projects that if you want to cash out at pilot, definitely there will be a stronger upside as traction is made if you stay till the pilot stage until we commercialize. But if you just want to help us to meet feasibility, then that will be recouped with grant monies that comes in.
I'm sorry, I came a bit late, but very interesting and insightful presentation. I just wanted to find out about, you know, the first phase, right, which is more proof of concept.
Yeah.
Did you check in terms of, you know, if the plant is acceptable here, or would it be considered as an invader plant? You know, obviously because we have to look at sustainability aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where some of the very first monies was spent. Can you go to the last slide with the team? We had the likes of Nicholas Noel, whom I said currently is a state manager at a SISAL estate in Tanzania. And we had this Tian, who's an agricultural specialist, try to understand there is actually already agave plants within Namibia. They're just not grown. I don't know, I couldn't remember if they were grown through testing or what it is. They're not grown for commercial reasons. So that already was used to just understand. So we've got early samples from testing, but it's also not, there are genetic variations, so it's not might not be the right genetics. But irrespective of genetics, just from the root perspective, that is understood that it's not an invader bush. Yeah.